This story time session here is called Change in Care. And this was more so of an open dialogue and to express experiences that we have within the healthcare system. And what are some of the things that we can do to firstly navigate those systems, how we can advocate for ourselves and others. And I wanted to kind of tap into a couple of pieces of that. And we have our lovely individuals here. Come on in. Come on, you good? We have two panelists here to express their expertise, and I'll allow them to reintroduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Elijah. I am 22, and I am a youth peer educator at KC Care, and I have been living with HIV since 2020. I found out my diagnosis right after high school, but ever since then, my life has been positive, for a lack of better words. So, yeah.
My name's Marcella. I just recently turned 30. I've been diagnosed now for 7 years, so I just earned my doctoral degree in HIV. As some would say, I am the actual former youth peer educator that Elijah took over my position. So I currently now work in a different field of community resource navigation with United Way. So for me, I mean, my journey has not always been easy, but I've learned to take a negative and turn it into something positive, for lack of better words. I'm also from Kansas City, Missouri.
You're going to pass the mic down.
Just in time. Sorry. Got lost a little bit. Sorry about that. But my name is Melissa. I have been living with HIV for that I've known when I was diagnosed, 8 years now. Right now, I work with Children's Hospital. With them, I work with outreach, with teaching the youth about HIV, PrEP. Also, I am a co-host on a podcast called Prep the Youth, where we have people of different work areas that come in. They talk about HIV, they talk about PrEP, but yeah.
All right, welcome everybody. So one of the things that I wanted to discuss with you all and to share your experiences is about person-first language. So when going into particular hospital settings or healthcare settings, what are some of the things that you find language that they use that aren't as fitting to the demographics?
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and start. I'm actually going to speak from personal experiences that happened over the summer. So over this summer, I had an incident that occurred in the state of Texas. They sent me an email from the prosecuting district attorney's office for Harris County. And on there, it says that you, as a victim in the state of Texas, have the right to request that the defendant, the person accused of the crime, once they're indicted, be tested for AIDS. I sent back a very nasty email. It was nasty. And I said to the DA, hey, you need to update that because we don't say AIDS anymore. We say persons living with HIV. And then even in my own position now with United Way, I've had to get them to update their system, and everybody across the country uses 211 at some point or time. 211 is a national number that you can call, and you can ask for community resources for like shelters and things like that. And so one of the things that I've noticed, not just in healthcare, but in community work as well, is that we don't use person's first language or people first language. And for me, it's frustrating because I'm like, why would you have AIDS diagnosis on a requirement when we're not living with AIDS, we're living with HIV or end-stage HIV. And so even older physicians, I've noticed they're trying to get on board with people first language, but we're not quite there yet. And so as a person that was diagnosed at 22 and has also worked with young people, the language does matter because it creates barriers to have them to come into healthcare centers or community spaces when we're still using the stigmatizing language.
Yeah, thank you for that. I would have to agree that it is really frustrating. when we encounter situations like that. For me, thankfully, I don't hear a lot of like health providers using the wrong language. It's more so like case managers. So the people that who are diagnosed, the people that they work with closely are using the wrong language, and is like making them feel less than, and making it feel like they are a burden. I often hear a lot of case managers gossiping about their clients, and just like saying like, oh, this person is late again, or this person always smells like this, or, you know, and instead of, you know, talking about them, or trying to make it seem like they are some, I don't know. But basically, in trying to put them down, you're supposed to be the point person to help them. Like, you know, that could be a barrier to care. You know, you can schedule them a ride, or you can give them any resource to like hygiene care, clothes, things of that nature. Also, our front desk, and it's really bad to say, our front desk is not good at using language at all. I have a trans client, and they call her by her dead name all the time. And, you know, that's frustrating because that turns our clients away. And then, you know, if we don't have any clients, then I'm out of a job. And also, one of the things, it's not language related, but the receptionists at our clinic, they have a really bad time at like checking people in for their appointments, or like letting the doctor know that, hey, so-and-so is here, they're checked in. Because I had a client that came 15 minutes early for her appointment and was gonna miss her appointment because she was waiting there for an hour, because in the system they said that she never checked in. Yes, so it is very frustrating, and it's something that we can do better at as a, you know, clinic, and also educating people on what language that we want to use. So, yeah.
For me, I would say that when it comes to clinics or dealing with like healthcare professionals, I haven't dealt with that. I haven't really seen the language barrier of being able to speak to people. But I would say, like what you said, like working on making sure that you're connecting with them when you're coming in, because you're the first person that they see. So I would say that now with the clinic that I go to, sometimes I get put off. I'm like, all right, cool. I don't really feel like coming in. So I'm not gonna lie, some appointments I'm like, I don't feel like coming in, just because the first people that I see aren't really inviting. So I'd say that's probably something that we need to work on.
What do you think some of the things that we can do when we encounter those sort of situations? So if they're misgendering you, or they don't use the correct pronouns, what are some of the things that you can do to advocate for yourself in terms of correcting that? So is it one of those things that you snap and be like, I told y'all once upon a time, right? What are some of the things that you can do to navigate those sort of situations?
I would say sometimes for example, for misgendering, for the person that's being misgendered, it's hard for them to speak up sometimes, because it's, okay, I'm hearing it again. I don't feel like repeating myself. So sometimes it's that moment of you yourself trying to decide, what do I want to do? Like, what do I want to come in every single time I have an appointment to have to deal with this, or do I want to just end it here now, or do I just not want to come to them anymore? So like you have your options, but you know, it's about also advocating for yourself, but then there's other people around you. So if like obviously the other patients in there, they don't know you like that, but if the other people that are, you know, the other healthcare providers, they know you, they see you all the time, they could also potentially stand up for you. But I would say you having to advocate for yourself is a big thing.
I think you made it, right before we get to your point, I think you made a good point on having a team with you. So sometimes when you can't advocate for yourself, it's always good to have some of those, whether it's a caseworker or a community health worker, whomever, to back you up too. Like, no, her name is such and such, just make sure you address it as such. I think that's a good thing that you point to.
Going back off what you said, basically like just advocating for yourself first. Well, for me personally, I'm one of those people like, say for example, if I was transgender and they called me Jackson, I'm going to tell them, no, my name is not Jackson, my name is Sarah, and you're going to call me Sarah. That's how I would, but not everybody is like that. You know, not everybody, have that, whatever you call it. I would just say, educate them on like, hey, like don't be like confrontational. You don't have to fight fire with fire. You can be like how Marcella said, you can be nice, nasty, or you can just educate them. A lot of clients that we see or at my clinic, that's like the closest clinic they have. So if they are getting misgendered or not seeking, appropriate care, if they leave, then they're out of care, like they're not going to get the, what they need, for their diagnosis and things like that. So basically it just goes off of just educating our clinics more and keeping them more up to date in like what's going on in the world. Because I know a lot of the things like in clinics and hospitals is like systematic and they've been working since, Moses and Jesus. But now it's 2024, 2025. Things are changing, things are, basically what I'm trying to say is like clinics and hospitals need to get with the program.
To kind of touch base on this subject a little bit, for me, coming from a personal experience and professional experience, one thing that I've told, especially young people, is to advocate. Like if you need to talk to the clinic managers, if you need to talk to the even the CEO of the clinics, you are allowed to schedule those meetings, and you are also allowed to fire your healthcare provider. If your healthcare provider is misgendering you and is not giving you adequate care, or your case manager, you have the right to fire them. That's not always the most equitable and feasible way for a lot of people, because like as Elijah said, in our city, there is only like one main clinic that especially our young people come to. And so being in that position, working with young people, one of the things that I've encouraged and I've talked to organizations about and stuff is having diversity, equity, and inclusive training. Say, hey, look, people first language is part of diversity, equity, and inclusion. You can't say that you serve diverse populations and you're allowing your staff to misgender, misuse of pronouns, and to use stigmatizing language in 2024. That's not acceptable. And I hate to say this, but if you are over a certain age and you cannot learn the language, and my mother is 60, then you are the problem. You as the person are the problem. It's not us younger generations. It's not the generations younger than us. It's you yourself need to take time and reflect in the mirror and say, hey, is it that I want to learn this and be in a position to actually help people, or am I in this position because this is how I feel of who I am? Are you in that position to help, or are you in that position because that is your identity at this time? And so what it comes down to is, as a community, if you hear something, say something. Advocate for each other. But more importantly, advocate for yourself.
Marcella, you brought up a good point when it comes to getting with the times, or, they're the problem, not necessarily the individuals that they serve. So that goes into my next question of, what are some of the suggestions that you would give for professional members of society, those are on the other side of that check-in station, in those organizations to improve their patient, client, community member experience?
There is a training called People First Language. It is national. So that is one suggestion for your clinic, is to look at People First Language. Another thing as a professional in healthcare is also listening to your clients, getting to know them and meeting them where they're at. Understanding, just like you would with your children and your grandkids who use slang and other terminology, asking them, hey, what does this word mean? All it takes is 5 seconds to ask, hey, I heard you say that your pronouns are they, them. Growing up, they, them to me was a group of people. So can you please explain to me why you identify with they, them, and allowing them the space to educate you? And oftentimes as healthcare providers, because majority of time, healthcare providers have a degree in things, they feel, oh, well, I went to school, so I know everything. You know everything on a book standpoint that you went to college for, and some of those textbooks are now outdated. So how about continuing education is what needs to be happening. So encourage your staff members, encourage yourself, encourage everybody, because knowledge is forever and learning is a process. You never stop learning.
Yeah. Anybody else got a point on that?
Yes, I do have two things I want to say, if I can remember. So to answer the question, to give advice, for like my clinic, and just like in clinics in general, I know that the health department does this. The health department, they have like a TV, they have like HIV, syphilis, gonorrhea, like it's telling you what, everything is as it's, going by these slides. And I feel like my clinic, they should have something like that, based on language, and educating people how to treat trans people. I don't care, you don't even have to be a person that likes trans people or gay people or whatever, but it's just a respect thing, because at the end of the day, we're all human, we all bleed. So just starting there, having something where it's educating not only the people that's working there, but also people who's coming in for an appointment or anyone who's just coming into the clinic. Also, I would recommend having a box to where clients can write a suggestion or say a complaint like, Dr. Lucy said I was this or whatever, they can just put it in there. It could be anonymous or not. And also being intentional about the clients and the demographics that we serve, because a lot of case managers, again, they only like, dealing with a certain type of clients. And that's really like defeats the purpose of being a case manager, because if one target area is being affected by something, they want to help, someone who is more easy to deal with, if that makes sense. And another thing, like you said, like advocating for yourself, just touching back on that really quick, you are in control of your destiny and where you go. I know that, like, that's something cliche to say, but if you stop at if everything makes you stop in your tracks, or, if you are frustrated by like the slightest inconvenience, then you're never gonna grow, you're never gonna learn, you're gonna be in the same position. Sometimes you have to hurt, sometimes you have to cry, sometimes you have to struggle. I struggled a lot, but now that's, that struggle also gave me the education that I know now, and, how I'm navigating through my life now.
Just real quick. I'm thinking of it from the standpoint of that some people, even if you give them the education, they're not going to listen to it. Right? It's like, oh, yeah, you're cool, but you're still a girl. Like, they'll sit here and they'll go back and forth with you.
Yeah.
And so I, in my honest opinion, feel that when it gets to that point, it's time for those people to just move out of that space. Because at this point, you see it, you may not see it, but everybody else around you sees it, is that you're not adapting to the change. You're not thinking, oh, okay, this was me here and this is how people were, but now everybody's like, people are changing. People don't identify as this anymore, they identify as this. And it's time for me to make the change, it's time for me to mentally change how I think. But for some people, this is how I was raised, this is what I went to school with, everything is stuck straight here and I don't want to move it. So at some point, it's time to say, cool, this is your point of view. We love that for you. We love the work that you've done for us. But I feel like you would be better on this side of things. You'd be better on the back end of things. You know, go through paperwork. Have fun with that. But I feel like you cannot be patient facing anymore, and that's something that we kind of need to come to acceptance with. That even if this person,
that's good.
even if this person's done 30 years, thanks for your service. Move
Time
on.
might be up.
Yeah, your time is up. It's been up, but you know, love it. But just it's having to realize that there's just some people that will not budge, and no matter how many times you drill it into their head, nothing will change.
I think some of the things that I'm hearing from each one of you is that some organizations and healthcare professionals need to express some sort of humility. Sorry, I got that wrong. How can I correct it? But then also what I'm hearing is that there might be a space where that does not happen. And sometimes they either need to move forward or you need to move forward, right? That's a good point.
So like basically like what you said, like it gets to a certain point. Like if someone, like you can educate, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And I completely agree with that because like I said, it's 2024, it's 2025, whatever. Everyone has a cell phone. Everyone has Google. Everyone has YouTube. Everyone has TikTok, or everyone knows what those things are. So why can't people educate what is pronouns? What is being trans? What is, you know, like we have these things, you know, at our fingertips. You know, you can research DIY projects, or you can research, you know, something that is to your liking, but, you know, just educating yourself. Because me, identifying as gay, I didn't know anything about trans people or, you know, anything other than just being a gay black man. But as I started advocating more and, you know, just getting into this field, I started learning about, you know, trans people, what they go through, even bisexual people, and what it means to be asexual and everything. So basically, like, just taking that accountability of, okay, I might be a little uneducated, so let me go educate myself. So yeah, it's just a choice at this point that people are just like, okay, well, I don't care. I'm still gonna say what I want or do what I want. So.
To kind of touch base on something that Cedric said, that sometimes people either need to move on from positions or people need to adapt. I actually last year took the initiative to move on from a position because there was a lack of diversity, equity, inclusion in the team. When I'm walking in and we're not just misgendering and things like that, but we're also misidentifying people racially because we are using colorism rather than asking. To me, that's a form of stigma. I'm already working with young adults that are living with HIV. I look at their chart. You have this person listed as one race, but then I find out they identify as this race. And so when I brought it to my supervisor, who has been in her position now 21 years, when I brought it to her thing, she's like, well, you know, there's black, white, and Hispanic. And I actually broke down to her, Hispanic is an ethnicity, not a race.
Yeah.
There is a difference between race and ethnicity. There is a difference between pronouns and sexuality. There is a difference in all of those things. And that's where, like Elijah said, we have Google, we have TikTok. And if you can follow P. Diddy's paparazzi stuff, if you can follow the YSL Young Thug trial, and you can get online and read all of these news articles, then you should be able to get online and look at people first language and gender identity and sexuality.
All of you just brought up a good point in terms of research and then the literacy behind it. So there's two things in terms of dual health literacy. There is personal health literacy, and then there's the organizational health literacy. In your mind, what are the two differences?
In my mind, personal health literacy is when you take the time to actually read up on things yourself, and then you take your own interpretation and implement it. Whereas organizational, what that comes down to is that's what the organization is. It's their literature that they're giving you to teach you those things. They may become cohesive. However, sometimes the organizational literature is actually not the same as your personal health literature. So then you have two perceptions that you are perceiving However, somewhere in the middle is the reality and the truth. And if you look at organizational literature back when HIV first came out, the literature that they first published by healthcare professionals is not the literature that we're seeing in 2024. U equals U was around way before 2017. The only people that knew about U equals U prior, though, was those of us that allowed ourselves to have the personal health care information. Whereas back before 2017 and Dr. Fossey had made his announcement of U equals U being recognized, none of the physicians were pushing that literature. None of the health care organizations were. So to me, it's all about finding that reality between the two and also understanding what you're reading.
That was beautiful. Can you kindly repeat the question?
Yeah, so the differences between there's two. Dual health literacy is the personal piece, and then the organizational piece. How do you separate the two?
Okay. So organization literacy, basically like what the company like goes by.
Okay.
Like as far as like policies or the language that they use, or like just how things operate. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how to answer this question.
But that's pretty good though, because in my definition it says how well the healthcare organization helps improve access or provide information for understanding and utilize their healthcare services. So you were right on the head when you was talking about how the organization wants you to perceive a thing or what they decide to market. But for your own personal health literacy, like you said, you got to find out what's the truth. Where's that gray area where the things overlap and it makes sense for that particular person. So that does make sense what you said.
Okay, yeah. So like my like personal health literacy. Like I used to Google a lot of stuff. Like I used to think that I had like cancer and like all types of things because I used to be like, what's going on? But now I do like extensive research on, my body. I listen to my body, as well as like when I go into the doctor or for an appointment. Yes, I do take what the doctor is saying, like, seriously. But I also still do my own research on top of what, the doctor says.
Good.
So, yeah.
What are some tools, too? Did you want to add?
Yeah,
While you do that, I want to give you something extra. In that piece, we get these, some people utilize my chart or some other platforms to see their results for particular things. So blood work, urine samples, swabs, whole 9 yards. When thinking about those personal health literacy pieces and the organizational health literacy pieces, when you see those results, what then do you do with that?
Do you want the honest truth?
Yeah, I want the honest truth.
I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I look at it and I'm like, okay, we need to make a change. Like, there's some things here that aren't really adding up. But sometimes I look at it and I put it away because I don't want the truth, right? So, because for me, sometimes the main thing I focus on is, am I undetectable? If I'm undetectable, hey.
That's real.
How the rest of it? I don't really, it's not, to me, I think when it got to the point when I finally found out that I was HIV positive, that was just like my main focus, right? It was like, my health is fine. Like I'm walking, I'm moving, I'm living, I'm alive. But when I'm taking my medication every day, is it working? Right? So when I go do my blood work, I don't care. Like when my doctor is telling me everything, I'm like, I love you, you're doing your job, but am I undetectable?
They're running you the list of, this lipids, and you're like, no, get to the. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, I knew that. Like, you didn't have to tell me that, I knew that. But am I good?
Yeah.
Is my medication working? Is the number of times that I've missed my medication, because that happens a lot, sometimes you might miss a week, sometimes you might miss a little more. is that affecting me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it comes to a point where it's like you forget about everything else and you focus on this one thing, and then at some point it's like, wait, maybe you want to read through the other things, because that could also affect how you're feeling. That's also might be affecting how this week you're not feeling well. This week you're moving very slow. Like you're not doing things like you usually do. And then you realize, oh, okay, it's my sugar is low. This isn't like, it's, I don't know. I don't know if I'm answering it properly,
No,
but
you
for
are.
me, that's how I've, like, my brain has kind of been functioning. Because now, I'm not gonna lie, my doctor was like, your glucose is kind of high. I was like, okay, maybe I need to fix that. So it's like certain things, the same my chart, it helps me realize, like, okay, these are areas that you need to fix. These are areas that you're doing great in. But as long as, for me, as long as I'm undetectable, I'm happy. Now the next step is let's work on the other things slowly,
Yeah.
because that could also affect how any other medication goes.
Yeah.
You said something earlier that I was trying to touch on, but I can't remember. So I will come back to that later.
All right. If you remember, tap in. All right. Speaking of tapping in, let's talk about some self-care pieces when it comes to when you navigate healthcare systems. What are some of the things that you do? Say you go to the doctors and it's a great experience. What are some things you do in terms of self-care afterwards? And what are some things that you do in terms of self-care when you have an improper experience at a healthcare system? I ask that question because some people will go to the doctor, right? You get your labs drawn, that can give you some fatigue, right? I gotta do this again. Another shot, another this. Like sometimes going to the hospital or healthcare experience can be a burden for some people. What are some of those healthcare things that you can do in terms of self-care that can help you get through that piece, because that is something that you need to do in terms of keeping your health intact?
So when I hear of like self-care, I often think of like just like rewarding myself, or like,
Okay.
like giving myself something because I did something. So like if I went and had an awesome doctor's appointment, like I'm undetectable, like, all my numbers are good, then I'm gonna be like, okay, well, let's go out to the bar, let's go celebrate, But if I have a bad experience and, I'm not undetectable, my numbers are looking, not as good, my reaction is still the same. I'm going to want to go get a drink.
Let me go to the bar real quick. Drink this away.
Because, it's like kind of like one of those things. It's like, it makes me like, it takes the edge off, if that makes sense. It makes me not think about it, just for that moment, in terms of if something was to go bad. And then I would weigh my options and weigh my odds, because some man told me that and it just stuck with me. So every now I come into any inconvenience, I'm always saying, okay, weigh your options, weigh your odds, what
I like
can you
that.
do to get out of the situation, because you can get out of the situation. In terms of just having a good doctor's appointment, I do reward myself. I might go to McDonald's, but I go there every day, so.
So you reward yourself every day, it don't matter. Got it.
But I do feel like it is really important to have that self-care balance, and not just for example, what I said about if something good happens, I'm gonna go get a drink. If something bad happens, I'm gonna go get a drink. That's not the healthiest mentality or habit to have. But having that acknowledgement of, I just worked 60 hours this week, or I just worked, whatever, I just wrote 3-page paper, finding that, I'm trying to find the word, basically just finding that time to give back to yourself. Whatever time that you put into that, make some time to give that to yourself, whatever that looks like. Where you go get a massage, you go take a walk, whatever brings you happiness, whatever makes you whatever makes you float, whatever floats your boat. So yeah.
I like that. Anybody else got anything to add on there?
So for me, I do like a monthly thing.
Okay.
So at the end of the month, once everything's done, I look at how the month has gone. Is everything looking great? If it's going good, I might, do not might. I do a monthly self-care, meaning I go out, I do my nails, I'm by myself, and that's what I enjoy to do. But sometimes I'm also learning to go take myself on a date, meaning going to eat dinner by myself. Even though I get very anxious doing that, I am getting out of that mindset. I take myself out. Being able to sit down by myself, and whether it's I don't want to think about anything or I am thinking, it's just I'm able to sit there and think about okay, today was a great day. Today's been this has been a great month, so let's keep it up. But as far as when it comes to appointments, so for bad appointments, I don't know. It's like my day just gets worse. I don't think I've ever been able to be bouncing back from it, because then I start to overthink this is what I this is why I didn't get the results that I wanted. Let's say my weight went up. Again, my weight is it fluctuates, That's okay. But if I've been in the gym putting in work and I come back and you tell me, "Oh, you went up 2 pounds." What do you mean? What are we talking about?
What are you telling me?
What are we talking about? So that's how it is for me sometimes. So if it's that kind of bad news, it brings my mood down. And the only thing that might bring me back up is my nieces. That's it.
That's good.
But other than that, it's sometimes if I get the bad news, I sit in it. I'm just gonna it is what it is.
Okay, makes sense.
I want to add something really quick. Just really quick. When you said about going out to eat and stuff by yourself, it is important to learning to be okay by yourself. Because that's a big part of self-care, is being able to be by yourself. Because a lot of people run to people or need somebody to be because they don't want to be alone, they don't want to face their insecurities, so like you said, you sometimes you have to sit in it, so it's really important to have that.
That's a good point. I am going to add something to the going out by yourself thing. So I do this little psychology trick, right? You go to your bar, you like that place, or a restaurant, right? I like to sit where there's a lot of traffic of people or eyesight. So if you sit at the bar, you're kind of by the door or whatever, and they come in, "Oh, hey, how you doing? Your drink is halfway low. Oh, I just need another one." And then you get a free drink. That's one of the things I use, but try it out. That's one of the tricks I use. "Oh no, I didn't even notice. Maybe I need one. Have a seat," right? So maybe that'll, just something I throw out there. One of the last things I want to touch on is the trust and mistrust of healthcare practices. Right, so we go into a lot of things where we see in some communities where the hospital isn't trusted or the healthcare system isn't trusted. In this 2024 going into 2025, the things that we knew, the navigations that we use, the self-care things that we use, what are some of the things that you will give to the community to say, hey, here's why you should or shouldn't trust the healthcare system?
This is why I tell people. It's a 50-50 gamble on trust in any situation, whether it's a relationship, a marriage, or anything like that. So what I encourage people to do is research and also talk to other individuals. So a lot of, especially HIV centers and things, they have community advisory councils, especially built within your planning council. So I always tell people, look, I don't always trust what my medical health provider says, and I've had the same medical health provider since my diagnosis. And so if I have a question, if I feel like something he said was wrong, then I Google it, but I go to reputable sites. I look at the CDC, the World Health Organization, and even then, they're not always the most trusting site either that I've learned. And so when it comes to mistrust and trust, it's all about following your instinct. Because if you feel like, oh, you know what, Because coming from a multiracial background, I don't always trust my healthcare provider. My healthcare provider told me, oh yeah, you can eat whatever you like growing up. Then come to find out 20 years later on my mother's side, we have an intolerance to breads and carbohydrates because it's common amongst Asian Pacific Islanders. I'm like, well, my pediatrician for 20 years didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So what do you mean this is just now coming out? So it's all about your level of comfortability and your own trust. And if you don't feel like you're able to trust them, do your own research and do your own homework.
That's good.
You know, and also look into your community advisory and your community and your consumer advocacy council. A lot of organizations that fund HIV/AIDS and things within the healthcare system. I know, like the clinic that we have in Kansas City, they have a community advisory board where they take the feedback of those in the community. So as a community, when it comes to trusting, is get together and have those conversations saying, hey, I have this experience, I don't trust this provider. Did anybody else have this experience? So just reaching out for that support, but also at the same time, holding people accountable. If you get misinformation that causes you to mistrust, then you have every right to go back and hold that person accountable for that information, saying, hey, you know, you told me that I would be undetectable in 3 months by taking my medication. I'm taking my medication every other day, but I'm not taking it every day. So now I'm having to come back because I feel like I can't trust you, and allowing that healthcare provider the chance to explain to you, no, you don't take your medication every other day. You take it every day.
Yeah.
Or I've even heard some healthcare professionals say, oh, well, this certain medication has a 36-hour window, so as long as you take it within that time frame, no matter what time frame, you'll remain undetectable. Then they go back in a month later, they're detectable. So then it's like, okay, well, you need to hold that healthcare professional accountable just as you need to hold yourself accountable.
That's good.
That's right.
That's good.
Yes, yeah, that was beautiful. Literally just took everything out of my mouth. But yeah, like just, you know, piggybacking off what you said, really just like, I mean, so for me, when I am encountering with my clients, I don't ever tell them like, I don't ever like badmouth any like provider or clinic or whatever. Like you said, I tell them to do their research.
Yeah.
If I'm giving them like, if I'm giving them something or like a resource or advice, it's because I took that resource. I was someone like a recipient of that resource, and I know the experience, so I'm going to give it to them because I know it's good. But yeah, I would tell them to do their own research, follow your heart, be vulnerable with your healthcare provider. I know like a lot of people, they don't like to tell their healthcare provider, yeah, I slept with 10 guys this week, you know, because that might make them, you know, oh, she might be judging me. Like if you feel that way again with your healthcare provider, then you probably shouldn't be with that healthcare provider. But yeah, just building that rapport between you and your healthcare provider, you know, establishing that trust. If anything was to come up and they said something that I didn't trust or that I felt like wasn't right, then I would do my own research. But I will also call different avenues, you know, people who do the same work and get their opinion. So yeah, just basically, you know, doing your own research, following your heart, all of those good things.
From the way I see it is that your experience is your experience. So if I go to a doctor and I know that we have a connection because we've built that, like, you know, I'm able to open up to her, him, her, because all my doctors have been females. So for me, easy. So, you know, I can, if I'm changing doctors, I've been able to change, I've been able to transition because it's a female doctor. So I have that connection with them, right? And so for me, I see it that for my experience and your experience are going to be two completely different things, because your personality and your doctor's personality, they can either match or they can't. right? So it's, if you come in and you're just, or like you feel some type of way, but your doctor is like trying to get you to realize like, hey, I'm here for you, but you're not matching that, then that's your experience, right? So if I recommended you like, hey, go to Dr. Kristen, and you come back to me and say, oh no, she, like, I didn't like her because of, that's your experience, not mine. I provided you somebody that I know listens to you, respects what you're saying, will allow you to speak. Like, they won't judge you. Like, I know this person because I've had that conversation with her. If I felt some type of a way, like, I hold off, but I gradually built the trust with her. But if you're coming off of one appointment and it's just like, no, like saying bad, keep it. That's yours because that's your experience. I know my experience, you have yours. So I feel like it's just that mindset that everybody's different. Like your personality and your doctor's personalities are going to be two completely different things. It's just, are you able to match each other? Are you able to come to an understanding? Are you able to just meet in the middle? Or is it just there's something you just don't like, and that's completely okay. But just understanding that you have to at least try, because if you don't try, each doctor you go to is just it's gonna be the same outcome. Like, there's nothing that's gonna come out proper if you consistently have the same attitude to each and every single person and blame it. Oh, it's them. If you've gone to like 10 different doctors, baby, it's you. Nobody else but you. So like, it's something that you have to sit there and realize, like, oh wait, I did go to 10 people. Like, what's the common denominator? Me. So like, how are we gonna fix that? So that's,
That's interesting that you mentioned that. You spoke about how can you trust the professional or the healthcare system when you're not being truthful about what your behaviors are, whatever the case may be. I think a lot of times the mistrust is usually one way. And sometimes we got to reflect on, is it me? Is it us? Like you said, if you've been through 10 and you feel like they all got the same problem, baby, it might be you. Right. Okay. So that's a good point, because a lot of people miss that. They think that, well, everything's out to get me. And like they say, like with your kids, so every teacher hates you.
Accountability and personal accountability.
Accountability is a big thing in that, and a lot of people sometimes don't necessarily see it that way.
and
A lot of people, sorry.
no, go ahead. I can finish my point out.
I was just gonna say, like, a lot of people, well, I wouldn't say a lot of people. Some people use HIV as like, they try to play the victim, and they try to, let that get in the way of, everything. When, not trying to discredit that is something serious, and then, it affects people differently. But I've seen it with my own eyes with my clients now. But like you said, you have to, what's the word I'm trying to use? You said it earlier.
Accountability.
Like if the doctor tells you something wrong, you go back and you tell them, hey, this is wrong. Like, like holding them accountable. Just, making the issue known, or whatever that is. But as far as like, what do I want to say? Yeah, as far as like my clients and what I've experienced, like some of them kind of just like I feel like they kind of want to give up because like any slightest inconvenience, they just like they want to throw in the towel. And we do have systems and things in place to kind of redirect them when they want to give up. But it really starts with you. Like, it really starts with you. Like, you have to want to change. You know what I'm saying? Like, say if I have an auntie that's, using drugs, I can be like, auntie, here's all these resources. Here's the Narcan, here's harm reduction, here's all that. I can give that to her all day, but if she's like, okay, I don't want that, then until she's ready, then, it's not going to happen. So it really starts with type person.
Well, one thing to touch on real quick when we talk about accountability, one of the things that often leads to medical mistrust is actually things that have happened in our own history. If you look at the Tuskegee Project, and then you also look at all the misinformation that was spread about COVID-19 throughout the pandemic, and then you add HIV and other things, and even our own mental health, you create more systemic barriers based upon racial and ethnicity and ethnic identities, because you already have things that are stigmatized and tabooed within these different subcultures and racial identities and things like that. So when we go take an approach to a medical health care provider, especially if the medical health provider doesn't understand, hey, look, I come from a background where you've already had some medical experience and things that have happened with people of my racial identity, so how am I supposed to trust you? So it's also making sure that your healthcare provider is aware of those recent things that have happened in our own history to make us be like, hey, whoa, do I really want to get vaccinated? Let's talk about this. And so that's one of the biggest things that we often that we have a lot of oversight on, that people don't understand, is healthcare experience is different on numerous levels, whether it's your racial identity, your gender identity, even your sexuality identity. And so when we talk about the mistrust, you have to look at all the reasons why we may not trust you as a medical professional, and vice versa, depending on our background and what's in our medical chart. The doctor might be looking at us like, okay, you say that you only having sex with one person, but then your medical chart says that you're a former sex worker. So therefore the medical doctor is looking like, okay, you're a sex worker, but you have only had one partner in the past year. So there's contradictions within your medical chart, and that's where you have to be open and honest and have those conversations on both sides.
Yeah, I think what I wanted to touch on was the racial issues, because a lot of the times, like, I'm going to use an example, like Black pregnant women. They've had, I don't even know where to like start. There's many experiences that you can read about, you hear about, of where they're not taken care of, right? So it's like the mistrust is from all the information that I've heard, all the people that I've connected with, right? So like, for example, my sister, she was pregnant, she had her baby, she didn't really have that great of an experience, right? And so it's like, when it comes to me, it's like, do I want to take the steps? do I want to potentially have a baby? And then in addition to that, Black woman that's pregnant, plus I have HIV, plus I have to make sure that my baby's taken care of, doesn't have HIV. So like there's a lot of things that are added on top of like trusting your healthcare provider. Of like, for example, like let's say my healthcare provider says, oh yeah, you can have a baby, you can give them breast milk. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm gonna go. Yeah, like I'm gonna head out because like, even I could tell you, oh yeah, I'm HIV positive, I may be undetectable, do I have to change my medication? Am I still able to breastfeed? Like, there's multiple things I want to know as a person that is living with HIV, trying to make sure that if I have a child, or let's say I'm pregnant, what steps do I need to take? Yeah. If you cannot sit down with me and face-to-face tell me, oh, this is that, and I've done my research, and you're telling me complete lies, and I'm like, wait, hold on, here you go. This is the research that I've done. Like, is what you're saying and what I've seen do not match up.
Right.
Like, if that's what's happening, like, would I really want to continue going back to a doctor? Like, that's kind of the mindset that you start to have at a certain point of like, I'm hearing this, I'm seeing this, I'm researching it. Like, there's multiple things that are coming up for me to say, I have my medication. I don't need to go to see a doctor. Like, there's nothing else I really need to do. First aid, like, I don't need to worry about seeing a doctor because I don't feel that I will trust you enough, right? And then also at the same time, the other thing is like, if me as a Black woman, I come into a hospital and I see that I have a different race of a doctor, and I say, oh no, I do not want you, respectfully. I would prefer if I had an African American female doctor. Why? Because I feel more comfortable with it. I feel that they would understand my needs, what I'm going through. And if I say I'm uncomfortable, like I feel I'm in pain, they will take the time and say, cool, you're in pain, let's fix it, right? Whereas some other people would be like, it's okay, just wait for the medication to kick in. No, babes, I'm not waiting for anything. I'm in pain now. I want you to fix it now. And so, like, that's the other thing. We have to understand that there's different areas of where different races only, like, certain races trust a certain race when it comes to the medical care. So it's not we don't like you. It's just we haven't had the best experience in every area. So it's just understanding and just being understanding.
Advocating for yourself. So a lot of this that we've heard was the difference between the health literacy piece on personal level and organizational level. Some pieces of humility within yourself and others expressing that. And then the trust piece, right? It's a two-way street. You can't say I don't trust the medical field because of XYZ when you haven't done your part or done your research and you're not living up to your end of the bargain. So I think we've learned a lot in that space. So I appreciate you all for sharing that. I'm going to open it up to see if you all have any questions or anything that you want to chime in on. And it's okay if not. Go ahead.
Elijah,
Yes.
do you honestly or truly believe, based on your experience, that those case managers are intentionally, mispronouncing those terms? Or maybe lack of education or lack of training?
I feel like that it is intentional because they all have degrees. So, like, you have the training. You know how to treat a person. Even if you didn't go to college, you know how a person should be treated. And I feel like it's very discouraging because when we have new people come to our department, and this happened twice to 2 new people. So the first time, a case manager and another peer was working with the same client. The peer was advocating for the client at the pharmacy, and the peer was trying to get the medication for the client. But their paperwork wasn't done, and then the peer let the case manager know, like, hey, this paperwork needs to be submitted. Everything in a nice professional way, and then the case manager was like, basically she's like, I'm getting to it, you're stepping on my toes. Like, I got this, stay out the way. So she was kind of rude to her, and then I had to personally go to the Social Security office with him and advocate for him, like, yes, I am his peer, and explain, like, what's going on to get the situation resolved. And then that whole situation, I guess the case manager went back to all the case manager and was like, I don't know why this particular peer is always, like, trying to step on my toes. She's always, basically, she's just doing her job and she's complaining. And then there was another time where all the case managers like to huddle up around one person's desk and they talk about their clients or whatever. And that happened in front of our newest peer that we had, and he had pulled me to the side and he was like, I just think that's so professional how they like just sit around and kiki and talk about their clients, like, like what's going on. Like, we're a nonprofit organization serving those who have HIV, like, what's funny about that? Like, why are we laughing or joking, So I most definitely feel like it's intentional because at the end of the day, I feel like case managers, they're there for a check. They don't even be there for a full 8 hours. I'm there for a full 8 hours and then some, and I feel like case managers, they come in, they clock in, or they don't even clock in because they're on salary. So they come in and they get to leave HIV and everything at the office. I got to take that home. Our clients, we live this every day. You know what I'm saying? So of course we're going to have harder days. Of course there's going to be, barriers to care like transportation or housing. A lot of their caseload is dealing with like substance abuse and like homelessness, so they don't really have access to like a shower or warm food or things like that, you know. So of course they're going to be asking you about food cards all the time because they're hungry. They don't have nowhere, you know. And of course they, you know, they might have hygiene issues because where they're going to wash, you know, where they're going to take a shower. And I just feel like it's really like upsetting for me to, you know, hear, you know, case managers treat their clients like that. That's the reason why I go out of my way for my clients the way that I do, because I know that that's what they deserve. And if someone, like you said earlier, like if you're not there, like if you're not like passionate about it or like even genuine, then you shouldn't be there, you know? So yes, I do feel like they're doing it on purpose and just, you know.
To kind of touch on Elijah, I feel that in most spaces it is done intentionally. I can say like misidentifying race is done intentionally in a lot of spaces because I've been misidentified racially. Rather than a person asking me what is my racial identity, they've just marked whatever. I've been marked as half black, half white. I've been marked as just Caucasian, and I am none of those. I am Asian Pacific Islander, so Native Hawaiian and other, and write the word multiracial if you must. And so what it comes down to, and Elijah made a great point, case managers have degrees. A lot of positions require you to have those 4-year degrees. People in positions like me and Elijah have both been in, they don't require degrees. So if we're able to understand the language and we're able to treat people with dignity, then you as a case manager or anybody with a degree should have the same dignity. But oftentimes what I'm seeing in these professional settings is because you have a lot of social workers that have burnt out and quit during COVID. Organizations are not vetting and they're not checking these individuals. They're not asking the questions during their panel interview of, hey, what's your experience with people first language? Hey, do you understand pronoun identities? Do you understand these things? And so I feel because you have a lot of organizations and you have the trainings on diversity, equity, and inclusion that you go through during your onboarding stuff now, you go through all these trainings. If you, after sitting through a diversity, equity, and inclusion training on pronouns and understanding how people identify and using people first language, and you cannot adapt that, and you can go online and print out a sheet of all the pronouns, then you are intentionally doing it because you are not taking the time to seek out the knowledge. And if somebody has to correct you more than once and you are not learning, then it's intentional. A mistake happens one time. In most settings, you make a mistake once. Okay, you didn't understand. Ignorance is not an excuse, though. It's not. And so if somebody corrects you one time saying, hey, you know, that client prefers to go by they, them, not any of the other pronouns, and then the next time that client comes in and you misidentify them and it's right there on their chart, at that point, you're intentional. And at that point, you have to look at the impact in the organization does. And at that point, I'm sorry, but you need to be dismissed.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So from like what the both of you are saying, to me, it sounds like it's just. That's what it sounds like people are saying. Oh, it's just another day at work. Oh, it's just the name. It's just a pronoun. That's like telling me, oh, it's just HIV. No.
Yeah.
It's like me telling you, oh, it's just COVID, and you almost died. Like it's not a joke. Like when we bring up things, it's not us saying, oh, if you want. No. Like if I'm telling you I want to go by this name, oh, it's just the name. It's just a joke. It's not just. It's what I want, not what you want. It's what I want. It's what I need and what I like. So, for example, being told, like for being HIV positive and you have to take a pill, it's not just a pill. To me, it's a reminder every day, right? I've come to a point where I can be like, whatever, I'm taking a pill, right? But for some people saying, oh, it's just a pill, you can take it. Oh, it's just a shot, you can do it. No, it's not just. It is something that impacts me. So you telling me, oh, just take the pill, just go by the name I called you this, so just come here. No, I'm not coming to you. Unless you're gonna address me the way that I want to be addressed, I'm not going to come to you. Or, okay, I can call you just person. I can call you just man. Like, if you want that, I can do that for you. But I'm trying to be respectful to you. I'm trying to teach you and show you, like, hey, we're in a different world. Listen to what I'm saying. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. And when it comes to, like, the case managers, like you guys are saying, to them, it's just another check. I'm coming in and I'm just clocking in. Maybe I'm not clocking in. Or I'm just sitting here. I just want to sit here and I just want to talk. It's just. To me, that's how, when I'm hearing it, it's just another day. This is just another check.
You had a question?
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to compliment you on your moderation.
Well, thank you.
Excellent. And the three of you are amazing.
Thank you.
What I want to say to you is that I think our future's in good hands with leaders like you. You are intentional, you are brave, and you are courageous. And Elijah, you have a mama. You got me. So I would encourage you to find your trans mamas and papas in your community. Find them. If you can't find them, you know how to find me. And when your trans clients go there, you can call me and I'll be there to back up. Sometimes, and I will say, and yes, it does happen. Intentional misgendering happens every single day. It happened to me this morning in Columbus boarding the plane. I was called sir. And I looked at them and I said, excuse me, I'm not a sir. Well, you have a raspy voice and you're trans. Excuse me, what does that have to do with giving me the right to call me sir?
Yeah.
I am female. And they will misgender you to see how much of a reaction they can get. I would also remind you, Elijah, remind them when they're talking about their clients, remind them about HIPAA.
Yeah.
If there's no release of information, you should not be talking about clients. And if you have a client, if you have problems with how your clients smell and you know that your clients are living in food deserts and food swamps, and your organization should be creating blessing boxes and hygiene packs and working with the houses of faith or working with institutions. If they have a wall fundraisers, I encourage you to hold them accountable with where the money goes, because we are doing it in Columbus, Ohio. They raised $200,000 last year, and we're like, okay, and you got the money in April, we're still waiting in October. Where's the money? We want receipts. Where is this money supposed to go? Because if you say it is supposed to be helping clients and it's not, you have every single right to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
And sometimes elders need to be checked and held accountable, and we need you all to come behind us and say what you're doing is wrong and you're complacent and you're comfortable, and check yourself. Because if you're in a human service industry, like Marcella and you said, and if they cannot do the job, and your face and your receptionist is the first person they see, and if that is the first person, and that person is going to misgender them, chances are you've lost them, and you've lost a whole community behind them. And we have people living with HIV still not getting tested because someone showed a lack of compassion and empathy. You don't have to be trans. You don't have to be a different race or different ethnicity to know empathy, practice it, and be compassionate. Because in being human, and we are supposed to be humane and operate with compassion and empathy.
That's good.
You guys have about maybe 5 minutes.
All right.
I have some books and stuff for you.
All right.
Go back to the main session. Thank you. You all could have been anywhere, and you chose to be here, and you were vulnerable with us because you shared your stories. So there must have been a point in your lived experiences where moving from who you are to embracing the role of being an advocate. And I know a lot of us work with young folks. You're all on a grant with me, so like that was my.
That's exactly what it was.
So we got a few of them there. I know a lot of us work with young folks, and so I'm wondering if you have thoughts or advice or thinking on your own experiences of how to cultivate sparking that advocacy voice in others.
Oh.
Because often we see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, because I've actually cultivated some young people, so for me, from my own experience, I had to learn that I could either be a victim or a survivor, and that life isn't over until you stop finding a reason to stop fighting to live. Once you stop fighting, that's where the end comes in. And so the thing with sparking young people is, no, you don't sit there and say, hey, look, we're going to tap dance because you're now living with HIV. We're not going to throw a hooray party, but we're also not going to throw a pity party. And one of the things that I learned, although I often got in trouble for it, is I learned to speak their lingo. So a lot of young people, they don't say vagina, they don't say penis, they say vajayjay, coochie, dick, whatever the conversation may be. So one of the ways to spark young people is meeting them where they're at with not just their actions, but with their vocabulary. Because when you come in as an advocate for young people and you're talking like a social worker, I'm looking at you like, okay, I was a foster kid. I don't need a social worker. I don't need you coming in using words that I don't understand. I mean, 9 out of 10 times I do understand them, but still, why are you coming in here just with a suit and tie or a blazer and a skirt looking like you work for the White House or the federal government when all I need is for you to meet me where I'm at? And so one of the biggest things that I learned in my own advocacy, especially when talking to younger people, is meet them where they're at. I'm not saying if you're in your 50s, come in there dressing like you're in your 20s. That's not what I'm saying. But come in there and create that comfortable space and allow them to have that open dialogue. And don't correct the language that they're using, because they are speaking a language that they understand and that their peers understand. And also taking a more status neutral approach. Don't make everything centered around HIV. Let them bring in other causes like women's reproductive rights, racial justice, because if you only hone in on one social justice matter, you're going to wipe out an entire generation of people. Like, look, you say that I don't matter, so I'm not going to participate, because all it's about is HIV mattering. So I encourage people working with young people to create those spaces and allow the open dialogue, and also allow them just to be unapologetically them, whether it's them being respectfully disrespectful or completely acting up. Allow them to have those spaces.
Yes, exactly. There was a quote that I heard today by a previous person from a previous session I was in. Basically, just speaking life into them. So like when I meet with my clients and they're telling me, ooh, I finally got my viral load down, or I went to the pharmacy by myself, I'd be like, hyping them up like, you did what? And I tell them like, say it again, just basically like building them up. And then, like you said, I let my clients start the session. I'd be like, okay, so today we have, I tell them what we're gonna cover educational-wise, but then I'd be like, okay, so we're gonna go over HIV 101, but before we even talk about that, what do you wanna talk about? Is there anything, and that might take the whole session, which gives us a reason to schedule another one, and then we'll just, follow up. So just creating a safe space, speaking life into them. Before they leave, I always tell them, I said, you are not HIV. I said, you have to realize you are a strong person just coming here and sitting with me today. I said, you are going to be fine. I was a person in your shoes, just helping them build up that confidence. And what Marcella doesn't know is that she's my peer, my personal peer, because, I was going through a hard time and I didn't have anybody, literally, no one to go to. And Marcella was just so polite and always speaking life into me and always telling me I'm smart and always telling me you're so sweet and you're so this when I didn't think of any of those things. So that's what made me start, feeling like that and kind of, standing back up on my own because she, created that safe space. She, allowed me to vent and, she spoke life back into me. So, yeah.
Thank you, Marcella.
I'll make it quick. I agree 100% with everything that's being said. A lot of the times you have to remember that, for example, for school settings, if you're in a school, some of them you have to think of where they live, the area that they live in, and then sometimes you have to think about the lifestyle that they have at home. So when you bring them, when they come to school and they're being themselves, you do not want to change that. Because if you change that, they're going to completely close off. They're not going to want to talk to you. It's just going to be, it's another day in school. And I've seen it multiple times of where they'll just scroll on their phone, but it's come on. Join the conversation, we're having fun. And obviously, do not change the lingo. If they're cussing, sometimes you're well, hold up. Let's try to change that a little bit. But as far as everything else, let them have fun. Let them talk, because that's the only way that they'll interact. And then also, it's not always we're going to sit down and we're going to read. Yeah. No, because nine times out of 10, they're not going to be able to sit there. They're not going to be able to just completely pay attention. They're going to want to get up. They're going to want to interact with you. And when they're interacting with you, you find that the next time you go back to them and they're I remember what da-da-da-da. Somebody was talking about this the other time and I'm perfect. You're able, we're teaching you and you're able to teach others. Right? And so it's I know there's one person that someone that I co-host with, Kenzie, she's in high school. Love her. She's now the condom person for her school. She has condoms in her locker. If they want anything, go get it. She teaches, and that's what you want. You want, you're not in high school with them. You're not there with them. So if you're able to take a group of kids and teach them, this is HIV, this is that, and then they go back and they teach others and they bring more people in, that's what you want, because you're not going to be able to connect with every single person. But if you have that one or two nice little kiddos that go back, hey, you're winning. That's all that it is.
All right, I think we have ran out of time, but it was good time, I think, right? So give our panelists a round of applause. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here. And thank you all for joining in. We're going to continue this fight, and everything that you've taught me, I'm taking it outside. So thank you.
We have some books and things over here. We can give sort of first dibs to our participants, but there's extras, and I really don't want to take any.
So take some books, get some literature.
Yeah, and I have some for some of you guys.
Okay, now it's time for my solo.
All right. Now break it down. You'll take those.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Right. It's such a bunch of water that you left in the summer.
I've been watching out for this water bottle.
Every time I'm in DC, all right, let me
get my water bottle.
And then I end up doing other stuff. All right, I guess.
Oh, man.
I forget to get it.
Don't forget your water bottle this time.
Yeah.
We got our